David Brewster here, another 3-for-all. This is 3 Joe Satriani Licks from 1988, and I've had a lot of requests to feature more of Satriani's music, and I put together a Chordplay and a 3-for-all episode, also a Breaking Chords episode centered around Joe's style. And he's a great player, a huge influence on me and my music. And initially, I was inspired to play the guitar because of Van Halen, and Satriani was my stepping stone, kind of away from Eddie and moving in, some different directions. He definitely exposed me to modes and music theory and guitar education, music education, and I really locked into Joe. And I didn't really feel right jumping over to Steve Vai, after Van Halen. So Joe really was kind of that transition, I guess, when I started to move a little bit away from Eddie and trying, to discover some different players. And of course, after I dove into Joe Satriani, then I dove into Steve Vai because he kind of broke that ice, I guess. But a great player and a huge influence on me. So while doing the research and putting this episode together, I was reminded of this period of Joe Satriani's, career. And I kind of forgot about that early struggle, like in the mid to late 80s, when he hit the scene. Because he did kind of hit the scene around 1986. He did technically release an EP, but, after that, he released Not of This Earth, and then eventually released Surfing with the Alien. And that would have been like October of 1987. And technically, Mick Jagger released Primitive Cool that same year. It was a few months before Surfing with the Alien. And I did read that Joe was struggling. He was trying to tour in support of Surfing with the Alien. They were losing money. And then eventually he got this magical phone call to join forces with Mick Jagger and tour with Mick on his first, solo tour. And Satriani did that tour. I think they were mainly in Japan, but also Doug Wimbish and Simon Phillips were also in that band. So here's a timeline to kind of help you see this chain of events. So I technically started with Primitive Cool and then Surfing, and then moved on to around 1989 when Flying the Blue Dream came out. So I guess really this, Jagger tour that Satriani was part of really did kind of help spring his career and kind of moved it in a bigger direction. Definitely gave him a lot more exposure and that name recognition. And the next thing you knew, Joe Satriani was a bona fide guitar god. And as further proof to show how important this tour and this era of Joe's career was, here's a quote from Joe Satriani referring to Mick Jagger and how, important it was in his career. So the licks in this lesson came from a live bootleg in Japan, and actually it catches, Mick Jagger and Joe Satriani, and they're playing Red House, and it's really a grainy, kind of hard to see. It's really, really dark video, but you can hear it, and you can clearly hear it's Joe Satriani playing Red House. You can clearly see and hear Mick Jagger, even though this is a really old recording, probably a camcorder or something out in the crowd. But it's really cool to catch Joe out of his element. Here he's playing Red House with Mick Jagger. It's not a rehearsed, Joe Satriani show. It's the Mick Jagger show with Joe Satriani, which is really cool to catch him in a different light. The first lick's this bluesy bending phrase, and keep in mind we're playing over Red House here, so we're playing over the 1 chord, which is B7. In the back of your mind, think of that real, slow blues of Red House. And you hear this. One more time. B7, and we're kind of playing out of the minor pentatonic scale, but he's targeting the major third a lot. So there's, B minor pentatonic. And he's basically starting on this A and bending that up to B there, a whole step like this. So you're going to bend that up a whole step, release it, bend it up again, and then you want to bend and release it. You're going to pick that A again and then bend it one more time. So there's a lot of bending right there for this opening. Like that. And then you want to grab this B note, you're going to bend that up a step and a half to D right there. Like that. And then you're doing this A, B, A hammer on pull off with some vibrato. So the opening there. Right there, you're going to grab that B and you want to hammer on this D to D sharp. Go back to that B note. Grab this F sharp with your middle finger, and then I'm using my index to grab that F note and slide to E like this. And then right there when you get to that E, slide down one more fret to that D sharp, and that's cleverly the major third of B7. So he's ending on a target tone right there, big time. And he noticeably picks that last note. So you're going to do that little hammer on there, do that shift slide, and then slide again, but pick that final D sharp. With this whole lick. The next lick's also played over the one chord, you know, B7, and something like this. One more time. So he's still doing this really clever targeting, you know, based around B minor pentatonic, but he keeps targeting that major, you know, third, D sharp. And right there, he's doing this really gradual kind of smear bend on that E up to F sharp. And then do that really typical kind of blues lick right there. Then you're going to grab the C sharp and do kind of a smear bend into D, so just a half step there. And then you want to come down those two, that double stop there. And then you're going to grab this G sharp and smear bend that up a half step to A. And then you're going to grab this F sharp to E. And then right there I'm using my middle finger and grabbing D and sliding to D sharp. And then you're going to do a finger roll from this B note over to F sharp. And then you're going to grab E and then finish on that D sharp. So once again, he's targeting that major third, but now he's doing it down there, you know, on the bottom. So he's doing these really kind of smeared bends, and it's really cool, really expressive and bluesy. Targeted phrasing and weaving in and out of the minor pentatonic. I love that kind of stuff. I also love that targeted kind of ending, you know, because it really pops and you definitely hear it. The next phrase is played over the 5 and the 4 chord, F sharp 7 and E7, and it's this extended bending phrase. It's going to definitely bring David Gilmour or some players like that to mind, but something like this. One more time. Tough, and you're doing this huge bend in there, but the first part's this kind of oblique bending or kind of double stop bending like that. So you know, basically bending this C sharp up a whole step, and then you're catching that F sharp on the high E with your pinky, like that. And then after you do that lick, it's like you're kind of coming down that C sharp to B to that G sharp, and then a quick pull off C sharp to B right there. And then this is the tricky part. This is the extended bending. So you're going to grab this D, bend it up a whole step to E and back, and then you're going to bend it up 2 whole steps to F sharp and back. And then right at the very end, he bends it up 2 whole steps again and ends on B. So you're doing this. If I did it with slides like that, but you're doing that with bends, and that's really tough. You're definitely going to need to reinforce the bend. I'm also using my thumb there for leverage and pushing, you know, really hard, because that's a big bend. You know? And I'm also picking that second time. I don't think Joe actually picked it there. So he's really like hanging on to that bend, which is really hard, and you're going to definitely chew up your fingertips, you know, playing bends like that. But think of, you know, Hendrix and David Gilmour and Steve Lukather, and there's a ton of players that do those extended bends. So one more time here. Here's a bonus lick, and this actually came from different footage. It's from the same year, 1988, but this isn't the Mick Jagger tour. This is a Joe Satriani concert, and he's actually playing Memories from Not of This Earth, and there's this really cool, like, blurry, legato, kind of chromatic-based lick. Something like this. One more time. So we're technically in A minor now. We're not in B7 anymore, like we were for Red House. Now we're in A minor. And he's basically starting here on this G note, and then you hear this chromatic bass, legato, like pull off. So that G and then E, E flat to D right there. And then you're going to grab this A note and you're going to smear bend that E flat up to E. So it's basically a half step right there. And then you're going to do that legato move again. So your ear is definitely picking up that because you're hearing that E note fretted, and then a second later you're hearing that E flat bent to E. So your ear kind of picks up on that because you're recognizing the note, but it sounds different because now it's a bend instead of fretting it, like that. Hearing that smeared bend in there is really cool. And then after you do that twice, you're going to do that legato move one more time. And right there, you're going to grab A to this E flat to that G, like this. Then do that legato move again, those pull-offs. And then right there, you're going to do this kind of stutter double pick thing between C and A right there. Something like that. I think I screwed that up. Quirky phrasing, it's not really expected, kind of, pentatonic based phrasing or whatever. That's definitely like A blues kind of based, but it's really unusual. The smear bending and that kind of chromatic movement, really cool. Alright, that's going to wrap this look at 3 Joe Satriani licks from 1988, and I'm a big Satriani fan. Definitely when I was younger and in high school, I was obsessed. I have a lot of his albums and transcription books, and I've definitely worked through a lot of his educational material. The Guitar Secrets book, with all his old, Guitar for the Practicing Musician, lessons and stuff. Phenomenal guitarist, a huge influence on me. And I do remember I had to back off, from Joe's music, because I do remember a time when a lot of my friends and buddies, I'd play them a new riff or a song idea, and they'd say, yeah, man, that sounds good, but it sounds just like Joe Satriani. And I had multiple people telling me that for years. And then I thought, okay, maybe I should back off, the Satriani thing. And I started moving around in some other players and styles and stuff. But he's definitely somebody I return to frequently. And it's like, yeah, it just knocks me out, with this kind of blues rock, sound, very melodic, total, shred guitar antics, and, these superhero kind of guitar, showman ideas and the shredding and stuff. But then there's like this futuristic kind of almost like robot kind of music that he's made over the years, especially in the early years. And he's continued, some of that, but he definitely has elements of funk and rock and, jazz and all this experimental stuff. How could you not like Joe Satriani? He's a legend. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know it with more content and material. Thank you.